And welcome to the Second Tier podcast. I'm Ryan Dilks, and I'm joined by the Sam Vokes to my Danny Ings. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
Oh, Justin, it's the most wonderful time of the year. It's just over a week until the start of the new season. That means there's a week of us predicting how the whole championship season is going to pan out in just a few episodes.
It really is a good time of year. It's exciting, but I don't know why. I think it's mainly because it's the build up, isn't it? It's the build up to the league action. This is a bit like Christmas Eve, but for Championship football. You know what's coming. You know Santa's on his way. You know you're going to get a hefty Christmas dinner at the end of the week. This is basically it. This is predictions. Prediction season is upon us. F Christmas. This is the time of the year.
It's the championship version of Christmas. You've got Neil Warnock on his sleigh coming down the chimney and saying, "Oh, you've been a good boy this year." And then he'll give you a present in the form of some predictions, which is exactly what we're doing right here. And it's about stepping into the unknown, Justin. I mean, how are we meant to predict how everything is going to pan out? It's completely impossible, but it's just a bit of fun, isn't it? And that's the best bit about it. It is just purely about the unknown.
It's the unknown, and it's not fun for everyone. People take it very seriously, Ryan, and we know that. We know this. They take it very, very seriously. But it is just a bit of fun because we're not mystic Megs. We can't predict the future. If we could, we wouldn't be doing a podcast. We'd be incredibly wealthy individuals.
Hey, Justin,
Or maybe
speak for
we would
yourself.
be doing a podcast.
Speak for yourself. I purposely get some wrong because I am Mystic Meg.
So
I
do
can
I.
predict everything right. I just prefer to try and get some wrong to throw people off the scent, you see. So let's dive into it, shall we? Welcome to the number one championship podcast, the Second Tier. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. And welcome to our pre-season predictions. If you've come here expecting to hear who we think is getting promoted or relegated from the championship next season, you've got to wait a bit longer for that. All will be revealed with that in our league table predictions, which start on Sunday. More about that at the end of the episode. However, in this show, we're still very much putting our necks on the line. We'll be predicting who will win things like top goal scorer, player of the season, young player of the season, as well as other things such as which team will be dark horse, who will be the big underachievers of the season, and which manager will be sacked first. So, may as well dive in, Justin, with top goal scorer. Here's a few facts for you, Justin. I know you love a good fact, don't you? Chibrakpom was the first player to finish as top goal scorer, but not get promoted since 2018. The previous four were playing for teams that got promoted. You might be listening and thinking, well, that's not much of a surprise. Usually top goal scorer correlates with a team getting promoted, but only one of the previous five prior to that weren't playing for teams who got promoted. So it's only become a bit of a regular thing in recent years. Only four from the last 11 top goal scorers were playing for the team who scored the most goals, which I think is quite interesting. Only three of the last 10 top scorers were English. They were Chubrakpom, Ivan Toney, and who, Justin Peach?
Pretty sharp.
Andre Gray. Close enough. 3 and 10 seems ridiculously low, doesn't it, over the last 10, or it might be 11 seasons actually, but still that seems a bit mad. Only 3 players have been top goal scorer more than once. Those are Alexander Mitrovic, Timu Pukki, and who, Justin Peach?
Pretty sharp.
Sylvan Ebanks Blake. Close again. I don't think Billy Sharp has actually been top goal scorer, which seems a bit mad. And of course, no one has been top scorer on more than 2 occasions. Justin, I don't know about you. I find it quite difficult to predict a top goal scorer this season.
I don't think there's going to be a player who scores more than 23 this season. It's a bit of a strange one. Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, I think. There's just not a standout player. You look at the teams coming down from the Premier League, Southampton's forwards are misfiring. Leicester have got a 36-year-old Jamie Vardy and Patson Daka who has yet to set the world alight for them. And then Leeds are coming down with, well, Patrick Bamford, who we know has a very good habit of not putting away those chances, and his fitness record isn't great either. So there's those teams coming down with the wealth of talent, and it's not really anyone sticking out. And then in the Championship, I think we've had, the top strikers leave recently or get promoted. So I think it needs really open, but really open to not an average field, but a very competitive field. So for me, I don't think there's going to be a player who gets near 25 this season.
Well, with that being said, who have you gone for, Justin Peach, as your top goal scorer for the new season?
I've gone with Ross Stewart of Sunderland. Now, picture this, and it's a question that's worth posing. If Ross Stewart stays fit for this season, does he beat Chuba Akpom to the Golden Boot last season? That's a question. Do you reckon?
I think possibly would have.
It's a competitive one. It's certainly a competitive one. I think
I'd say
Akpom was
more
still,
likely than not, personally.
yeah. I still think Akpom was still had a better conversion rate, but he only played 13 games last season, but he scored 11 goals in that time, and I think that's an incredible record. I think it's been also incredible because he was prolific before his injury, before his first injury, and prolific before his second injury as well. So give me a fit Ross Stewart for a full season. I think he scores at least 25. Maybe not this season because I just claimed that I don't think there'll be a player that gets near 25. But you see the point. I think he's going to be the man this season who's going to lead the charts as long as he stays fit. And then you throw in the ammunition that he's going to get from the likes of Jack Clark, Alex Pritchard, Patrick Roberts, among others. He's going to be unstoppable. We've seen how clinical he can be last season. And I know he's out of contract. So even if he does move to a big spending championship club, I think he will still score goals. It's as simple as that. He's a goal scorer at this level. And as I mentioned, with Akpom having a better conversion rate, there's only two players ahead of him last season in terms of goal conversion. It was Nathan Teller, and Chuba Akpom. So he was the third most prolific forward, or most likely to put the chances away last season. So for me, Ross Stewart, it was a difficult one. There was a lot of choices, but Ross Stewart for me was a standout.
Yeah, I suppose you've got the fallback option there that even if he does leave Sunderland, it's very likely he will still be in the Championship next season, possibly at a newly relegated side because they have been linked with a move for him. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's right up there. I just could not pick him based off his fitness record. That was the big holdback for me because I did want to choose him, but I was just looking at it and thinking it's a bit of a risk. Plus, I think he's going to miss the start of the season as well. So you've got a few factors to take in there regarding mainly his fitness. For me, I was looking at the past top goal scorers, and this sounds so obvious to say out loud, but supply is crucial. It's just as important as actual finishing ability, perhaps even more so. So you have to take that into account when choosing. And that's why I've gone for Nathan Teller at Southampton. Nathan Teller was excellent last season, surpassed all expectations at Burnley, finished as top goal scorer for the team who finished top of the Championship. And they were, in my eyes, the best team we've ever seen at this level. And he was arguably the star of that side going forwards. It's no wonder Southampton have fought tooth and nail to keep him at the club. It's a big show of ambition as well because they could have took the money and run, but they didn't. 17 goals last season is a ridiculous tally for a guy who had only scored twice in his career previously. But the data behind it shows it was by no means a fluke. 17 goals from an XG of just over 10. Out of all the players who played at least half of their team's minutes last season, Chuba Akpom is the only player who had a better shot conversion rate. Finishing numbers, just incredible. He was just so clinical, and there's no reason why we can't see it again this season. The big thing for me with regards to picking him, though, is the supply he's going to get. No player created more chances in the Championship last season than the new signing, Ryan Manning. Southampton are spoiled for options at right back, no matter who stays or goes. He could potentially have James Ward-Prowse, Carlos Alcaraz, Will Smallbone in midfield, being another supply line for him. Also, Swansea had the highest expected goals from open play for any team outside of the top six last season. And Russell Martin, of course, manager at Swansea, now at Southampton, he's got even better players at his disposal now. So Teller should get chances galore. So loads of chances, top quality finisher. He could score loads.
It's quite the show of faith from you to pick out a player for top goal scorer. This is a big accolade, top goal scorer, a player who's only done it once in his career, essentially. I think my only thinking is maybe that he just goes back to being not the Nathan Teller of old, but did he just have a golden patch of form last season? And now he was incredibly clinical, I'll give you that. And his movement was exceptional. And he's going to get a lot of those similar scenarios where the ball's being flashed across the box and he's got to be joining on the spot. He's got to be in the right place at the right time. And he showed at Burnley last season that he can do it. So I guess, yeah, it is quite a shout. I maybe would have gone with more experience. But as I say, Pickens was relatively low this season.
I think if you're looking at it from an experience perspective, then I think Teller showed more than enough last season to show that he is a clinical goal scorer. And I'll accept that he's not a striker, but that's not really a thing anymore. Wingers, we see it in the Premier League season upon season, don't we? Wingers now, inside forwards, whatever you want to call them, are scoring goals for fun. And I think Teller is just another one of those, really. We've, as well as top goal scorer, Justin, we've also done a dark horse for top goal scorer. I'm interested to see who you've gone with here.
I've gone with Tyrese Campbell of Stoke. Checking the odds, I think it was 100 to 1 or something. A pretty decent odd. And as I say, I think that the reason why it was so low is because it's such a wide selection of players available this season. No real standout players either. But I do feel if paired with the right player, he can really cause some damage. When he hit form pre his meniscus injury, I'll get that one right, not his ACL, his meniscus. He was playing in a fluid front three under Michael O'Neill alongside Stephen Fletcher, Jacob Brown, Nick Powell. So I do think if he can be a part of a similar system, he can really do some damage. Do I think he'll score 20 plus this season? I don't think so, but he's certainly worth a shout. Because I think if Alex Neil gets him into those positions, goal scoring positions in and around the box, he's comfortable with the ball at his feet. He's very, very clinical, or can be very clinical, very composed as well, technically gifted. Then he can do some damage. And then add in the fact that they've got Hoiver and Josh Tymon on either flank at wing back. There's going to be plenty of supply in wide areas. So get it right in the middle, in the middle of the pitch. I think Campbell can do some damage next season.
Tyrese Campbell's one of those who, on his day, is one of the best strikers in the division, isn't he? It's just about making that, on his day, a regular thing. It's just not happened for him ever since he had that injury. So I'd still be a bit skeptical about that personally, but I think he's definitely worth a shout because the potential is definitely there. Speaking of which, I've gone with Liam Delap at Hull. Now, I imagine Stoke and Preston fans are probably hearing this prediction and shouting at the speaker right now something along the lines of, he's fucking shit. And you know what? I wouldn't blame them for saying that after last season, because for both of them, he was. And we've been hearing so much about how exciting a striker this young lad was. And he massively underwhelmed last season for two different sides. So why is it going to be different at Hull? Well, again, I think the service will be there for him. I'm looking at the wing backs there. Cyrus Christie on the right, new signing Ruben Vinagre on the left. I'm not sure there'll be many wing-back pairings better than that this season. I'm a really big fan of the Vinagre signing in particular. Both love to get forward. Will be doing what they can to put chances on a plate for the forwards. And Liam Rosenior has also been massively bigging him up since he signed. He's been saying he's got freak speed and completely fits the way he wants to play with being able to run in behind. The big issue is his finishing. 4 goals last season from an XG of around 8. It's not good reading. However, Rosenior has been saying he is a great finisher. And even Pep Guardiola said similar. He said he's a killer, a typical British striker, an incredible finisher. I mean, this is possibly the greatest manager football has ever seen. And I don't think he'd be saying that if he wasn't a good finisher, if he was, I don't know, Connor Salmon. But I just get, come on now. I just get the sense that everything could just click for Delap this season. And he may end up scoring goals for fun. It may be another season where he completely underwhelms, but I can't see there being this much hype about him before if he wasn't a very good striker. And confidence is low right now. If he scores 2 or 3 goals in the first few games of the season, he could be up and running and scoring for fun.
That's the key thing, is getting on the score sheet fairly early. He's still just 20 years old, which means he went out on loan last season when he was 19. It is difficult for forwards, especially when you've been in a very nice, cushy environment at Manchester City for such a long time. And let's be straight, it is a very nice environment to develop in. And you do have to be a special player to really thrive and then come away. James McAtee last season struggled at times, not as much as at Sheffield United, not as much as Liam Delap, but there was periods of struggle for him. So for me, I think Liam Delap just needs a good place where he's under the guidance of a manager who can really allow him to thrive. Thought Ryan Lowe would be that man. It wasn't the case, but then again, Preston didn't create too many chances in the second half of the season. Tom Cannon was thriving under the young player. So yeah, it's certainly worth a shout. There's a lot of qualities there that Liam Delap still hasn't shown, and I think he's going to get the platform to do it.
Let's move on to player of the season, Justin. More stats for you right here. In the last 18 championship seasons, only 5 player of the seasons weren't playing for a side which got promoted. That, of course, including last season's Tuber Akpom. You have to go all the way back to 2006 to find the last player of the season who wasn't a midfielder or a forward. And that was Justin.
Oh, I was going to say Billy Sharp, but it's not a midfielder or a forward.
Jesus Christ, stop
Tom
guessing
Kearney.
Billy Sharp. No. Well, I mean, he's also a midfielder or a forward.
Sorry.
It was Phil Jagielka for Sheffield United. 2006. So it was a long, long time ago. It doesn't really happen, does it? Who's your player of the season, Justin?
I've gone with a midfielder. Kenny Disbury Hall of Leicester. I like him so much. I think he's such a brilliant player. You've got to think back to when he was on loan at Luton, how good he was in that loan spell in the 1920 season, 2019-20 season, and he was still quite a raw talent then, or 2021, I should say. Despite being relegated, Dewsbury Hall statistically still performed incredibly well for Leicester last season. Scored high in carrying the ball, successful dribbles, touches in the opposition area when compared to other central midfielders. Defensively, he was one of the top performers as well when it came to blocks. So that shows he's capable of pressing opposition into mistakes. That's a really good skill set to have when you've got a manager there who's more than likely in the Championship going to deploy a style of play where it's going to press opposition high up, regain the ball, and get back to what they were doing with the ball, essentially. For me, he's got the full package for a central midfielder, especially at Championship level. I think he's going to thrive. He did well in the Premier League. Obviously, could have done better with Leicester, but who didn't perform poorly in periods last season. In the Championship, he's certainly going to thrive. Accumulated 9 goal contributions, as I mentioned, with his spell at Luton. And that was when he was still a young, raw talent. And given the amount of times he's getting in good areas in and around the box, if he can add that clinical touch, he could easily hit double-figure goals and assists if things happen well for him. He's going to be playing in a style of play as well that's going to create space and openings for players to penetrate opposition. That's going to allow the door to open for Dewsbury Hall to get into those areas and really hurt other teams. So for me, I think it's going to be a bit of a coming of age year for Dewsbury Hall, where we start to see him elevate his profile, because I think he's gone under the radar quite considerably over the last couple of years. Been a key performer for Leicester, and quite rightly in the shadow of some of those key players like Harvey Barnes and James Maddison, who have really performed statistically well in terms of goals and assists. But for me, Dewsbury Hall is going to be the key man there for Leicester next season, and hopefully they're the best player in the league.
Interesting pick, Justin. I've gone for Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. Look, Leicester have plenty of players who shouldn't be in the Championship next season, and Kiernan Dewsbury Hall is top of that list for me. He simply is a Premier League player, a mid-table Premier League player, actually. Only 3 players featured in more games for Leicester last season. His chances created per 90 was essentially the same as James Maddison, and we all know how good a player he is and where he is now. He was one of the highest ranking midfielders in the Premier League for progressive carriers per 90. I just find it astonishing that there wasn't more interest in him. You've got a player who's just about to enter his peak years. Why wouldn't you get him in? Leicester will be laughing that they've got him, though, and he will be unbelievable this season. I can just guarantee it now. He will simply be coming up against opposition players who are not as good as him on a weekly basis. The problem is, for that opposition, they've also got plenty of other players to worry about as well, because, as I say, Leicester have plenty of players who are above Championship level. So I'm hoping we'll see him do a lot more in terms of goals and assists next season. It's only 3 goals and 4 assists over the last 2 seasons, but that wasn't his job before. He was just kind of part of the system. Now he will be given the ball and be expected to do something. So that's why I'm so hard on Kiernan Dewsbury Hall being player of the season next season, and just being possibly one of the best players we've ever seen at this level, because he's just so good. With that being said, let's move on to young player of the season. Justin, I can't remember who you've had here.
I think I changed it last minute, so this might come as a surprise. No, not last minute. I may have sent it to you. I don't know. We don't organise ourselves. Ha! I've gone with Callum.
Been organised.
When have we been organised? I've picked out Callum Doyle. now you might think, oh, well, Leicester players. I think I would have picked out Callum Doyle, whether he was playing for Leicester or Birmingham or Leeds or anybody else in the Championship, because Callum Doyle's ascendancy in this league is just going from strength to strength to strength. He made 39 starts last season for Coventry City, 41 appearances overall for a team that finished in the top six and did incredibly well defensively. I think they kept the most amount of clean sheets in the league, which I tend to prefer to rate a defence on as opposed to a goalkeeper. I think it's more important for defences to keep clean sheets than maybe goalkeepers, because it shows that they're keeping opposition out. And with that in mind, Coventry relied heavily on being solid defensively. Clean sheets emphasised that. There wasn't really an emphasis on playing out from the back, but I think that allowed his defensive qualities to really shine. So not only is he a solid defender, but he's also a capable ball-playing defender. And that really wasn't an issue. He completed 84% of his short passes, which seems a pointless stat, but when he's going to be playing in an Enzo Maresca system where there's going to be a high demand on playing it out from the back, you've got a player there who's comfortable and smart with the ball at his feet. And so those numbers are just going to increase. He's a really exciting young player. He's gone from strength to strength. Maresca's probably had some involvement with him because Maresca's obviously in charge of the development squad at one point in Manchester City. So there's going to be a familiarity with both player and manager there. And as I say, I think I'd have picked Callum Doyle for no matter what team he was playing for this season. He's got such a high ceiling, and I really do think he's going to be a key performer for Leicester. Comfortable player, solid defensively. He's got the full package, and he's just 19.
Yeah, I'm a huge Callum Doyle fan. I would have picked him myself, but I have kind of stayed away from that because he's a defender, and defenders don't tend to win Young Player of the Season or any type of awards, really. So while I do rate him extremely highly, I think he's getting towards the stage where I may be predicting him to play for England just because of what he's achieved and how much he's done so far, despite still being a teenager. I've stayed cleared of him and gone for someone who's a bit of a wild card, Justin. I've gone for Amari Hutchinson of Ipswich Town. I am incredibly excited to watch this lad next season. He's one of those young players who you hear so much about, and now we get to see what he can actually do at a senior level. Extremely highly rated at Chelsea, was also very highly thought of at Arsenal and was training with the first team regularly before Chelsea snatched him away. Arsenal didn't want to lose him, but Hutchinson made that move happen. So understandably, there was a lot of interest from across the Championship in getting him in on loan, and he's chosen Ipswich Town. And I think it's a very exciting pairing. Ipswich are a club massively on the up with an incredibly talented manager who knows how to take a youngster's game to the next level. Ipswich also needed a bit more oomph in their attack, and he can be just that. So it's a move which can be perfect for Hutchinson and also Ipswich. And I can see him having a similar impact to what Amad Diallo had at Sunderland last season. Someone who you heard loads of great things about, hadn't really seen it in, first team football. He just needed the platform to show it. He's got lots of flair, running at defenders, an incredibly exciting player who I can guarantee will get Ipswich fans out of their seat next season. So it's time for us to see what all the hype is about.
I can't say I know too much about Hutchinson other than there's a lot of hype around him, which is always a good thing. I know did he ever move lined up in January, but it fell through? I can't remember who it was. West Brom. Right, there we go. I mean, he would have been a massive asset for West Brom, given their lack of imagination at times towards the end of the season in the final third. But there's a player there who I don't think there's a similar profile of player at Ipswich at the moment who's comfortable with the ball at his feet, can take players on and get into one-on-one situations and create opportunities off a spark. So he's going to be a real big asset. And then you've got Kieran McKenna there, who has progressed the likes of Luke Wolfenden, Leif Davis, those fringe players, young players who needed developing. He's guided them into really good positions essentially. So I think Hutchinson under the right manager. I think that's a key thing is McKenna and Hutchinson is going to work very well together. McKenna's got previous of developing youngsters. It's a good place to be. So yeah, quite excited, intrigued to see how this one works out.
I expect Chelsea have probably looked at that as well and thought that's a club who we want our players to be going to because of the manager, because of how well they're doing at the moment. It's just a good place to be, isn't it? So it seems like as I say, a perfect pairing for both parties. Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll talk about first manager to leave or be sacked, as well as dark horse and biggest underachiever. Welcome back to the second tier podcast. This is us making our pre-season predictions for the new championship season. And now we're on to first manager to leave or be sacked. Who's going to win the sack race, Justin?
Sack race or leave race? I think it's going to be Ithgo Munoz. Now, a lot of Wednesday fans will be thinking, anti-Wednesday. But there's a lot of expectation, I think, from the ownership, Transiri, compared to that, to the realism of what is the current situation at Wednesday at the moment. The squad, I don't think, is capable of staying in a division. The squad is also set up for a Darren Moore system. There's a lot of aging players in this squad. There's a lot of there's a lack of depth. There's just a lot of problems that Munoz is dealing with at the moment that I think he's going to fall victim to. Now, it just depends if Transir is the first to pull the trigger on allowing him to leave or Munoz leaving compared to other managers. Darren Moore covered a lot of cracks at Wednesday. I think Munoz has come in and he's going to experience them and fall victim to those cracks. Essentially that. If there was more structure behind the scenes, I think there's a potential there for Munoz to thrive, but there just isn't. His last two jobs in England have been at two relatively dysfunctional clubs where the hierarchy is just too involved. So I don't think we're really going to see what Munoz is about, because I just don't think there's any possibility to do so. And as well as that, this feels a lot like Wednesday from the season they went down in 2020, 2021, where they went through Gary Monk, Tony Pulis, and then Darren Moore, which with the extensively long period of having Neil Thompson in caretaker charge as well. It just doesn't feel like a smooth football club. A smoothly run football club. And that's the key thing for this scenario. You've got managers under pressure who easy picks, and then you've got teams or clubs that aren't run as well as they could be. And I think Munoz falls into that latter category.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you on that, Justin. I think there's quite a few options who you could choose for this. So it was really difficult to actually nail down the first manager to go, because there's quite a few managers who start the season under pressure. One of them is certainly Gareth Ainsworth. QPR have won just 3 games from his 13 in charge. They were playing terribly and nearly got relegated on his watch when they weren't in huge danger when he came in. I think he saved his own job with a couple of wins towards the end of the season. The fans are definitely split over him. Some want to give him a chance. Others think they should have got rid. Well, they had the chance in the summer. Won't take much for things to go really sour there really quickly, because so far QPR fans haven't really seen the good side of Gareth Ainsworth and QPR, I suppose. The other thing to add is this, and this is a really, really important point for the category that we're talking about. QPR's opening 10 games are really tough. They've only got 1 home game in their first 5 for some reason. I'm not sure why,
Wow.
but that was interesting. And in those 10 games, they've got to face 2 relegated sides, 3 teams who finished in the playoffs last season, an Ipswich side who many are tipping to go well, and a Birmingham side who have signed extremely well. So it looks like there's a good chance he could be shown the door in the first 10 games, unless he pulls some proper rabbits out the hat with some of the games he's got coming up. If not, I'll be amazed if he gets to Christmas, just because I think there's so much pressure on him already. So many fans are completely unconvinced, and QPR may be struggling by that time as well.
That rabbit could well be Hackerman. You never know.
Yeah,
you never know.
Get him in. Get him in at the back.
Oh, God. I think the only point I'll make on this is the only reason why I've veered away from Gareth Ainsworth is because he's being allowed to shape the squad in his philosophy and style.
Which is concerning. But
it gives me the idea that maybe the ownership's really committed to making this one work. But you mentioned those 10 games there, and if he's not won the first 6, for example, then yeah, he's going to be under all heaps of pressure, where I don't even think Hackerman could save them. So
no,
not ideal.
Get Hackerman in for the rest of the season. Let's go on to kind of our team predictions, Justin, including Dark Horse and biggest underachiever. We'll start off with Dark Horse. Justin, who have you gone for?
I've gone with Hull. Now, I think Hull are going to have an extremely good season or a really boring one, which doesn't seem like amazing inside, because there's one or the other, isn't it? But I think Hull are either going to have a season similar to last season, or really put themselves in promotion contention. I can't rule them out of pushing for the top 6. I like Rossini. There's a lot of potential there for him. And there are obvious issues that need to be overcome. And I think if they can be overcome, it could be an exciting season. If not, it could be a very normal and boring season where they finish between 16th and 13th, for example. But 60 V's in 28 tells you that Liam Rossini had a very solid start. He won 38 points from the point he took over at the end of, from the point he took over to the end of last season, which would have seen Hull finish 10th, but a considerable amount of points off behind the top 6. And there's a lot of things cooking there. You've already mentioned Ruben Vinagre and Cyrus Christie, the creative prospects there from wide areas is exceptional. And then the presence of Liam Delap could really help Hull become a different beast in the final third, because he did struggle, and that's one of the issues that Rossini needs to sort out. So I'm excited but apprehensive of Hull, but I would put them in this dark horse category where I think they could potentially push for the top 6.
Worth mentioning as well, when Rossini came in, Hull were just completely transformed, weren't they? I think they finished 10th in the championship table from the stage that he came in. Defensively, completely a different side. Went from having the worst defensive record in the league to the 4th best, which is quite the turnaround. It's just about scoring goals up the other end as well. So the additions of Delap, Vinagre as well should hopefully help with that. And it wouldn't surprise me if they bring in a few more players before the window closes as well. I've gone for Coventry as my dark horse for the season. Now, it seems a bit strange having the team who got to the playoff final as a dark horse, but if you look at the bookies, they have Cov around mid-table. So it seems like I'm justified in picking them. As well, I think many people expected Coventry to have a drop-off season after losing in the playoff final. I mean, I was one of them after the playoff final, I will admit that, but Coventry's ambition this summer has been extremely impressive. They forked out for the likes of Ellis Sims and Bobby Thomas. Says to me that they want to make sure last season wasn't a fluke and they want to build upon it. And they're looking strong again, despite a bit of churn in the squad. Obviously, Victor Gyökeres is gone, but Ellis Sims is an excellent replacement. Gustavo Hamer may still leave, which would be a blow, but we'll wait and see on that. I was a bit concerned about the back line at one point, but Jay De Silva's come in at left wing back. Bobby Thomas, I think, is a great addition at centre half. Had an excellent season with Barnsley. Really impressed me there. Joel Latabodier comes in on a free as well. I can see that being a very smart signing. Elsewhere, Japanese winger Tatsuhiro Sakamoto has come in. He's one to watch. And Callum O'Hare will be back at some point as well, which will be a huge boost because they sorely missed him in the second half of last season. So the squad's strong and they want to continue their impressive rise from League Two, which they've improved upon season. That is a factor for me. I like it when a club has that continuous rise. It always indicates a club is well run in most cases anyway. In Coventry's case, they're also extremely well managed with Mark Robbins at the helm. There aren't many managers in the country doing better in their current job than him. So there's a lot of boxes ticked there for me with Coventry City. And if anyone is expecting them to drop off this season, I think they may be surprised.
I'd have just thrown them in a category of being one of those teams who are going to compete for the top 6. So it would have been difficult for me to justify them being a dark horse. But obviously, if you're basing it off the bookie odds, and I've seen quite a lot of predicted tables as well already who have put Cov in around mid-table. So there's a lot there underestimating the potential impact of the likes of Ellis Sims. There is quite a high squad turnover. Obviously, there's not a lot of players that need replacing, but you've got to back the recruitment team given the quality that they've succeeded in bringing in the past, and Mark Robbins able to get in the blend out of them. So, yeah, certainly, I think dark horse is probably a decent category because it's still going to have one of the lowest budgets in the league. Probably not bottom 4 budget, but certainly bottom 8. You'd expect, because again, they're not going to throw money at it. I know they've spent money already, but they're not going to throw heaps of it at players. So yeah, not a bad pick. But again, Mark Robbins, can you consider him a dark horse? I don't think so.
Well, dark horse is a very subjective kind of thing.
Yeah,
it depends about how you interpret them already. But as you say, I've looked at plenty of league table predictions as well. I don't think I've seen anyone yet have Coventry in their top 6. The bookies certainly don't. I think people will be surprised about Coventry once again. Let's go to biggest underachiever, Justin. Who have you gone for?
Again, this was a last minute change, although you do know about it. Preston, I've gone with Preston. This comes after they flirted with the playoffs last season. So I think if you've got a team there who were finishing in around the top half, the following season, they're going to be looking to compete for the playoffs once again. But I don't think that's going to be the case next season. I do rate Ryan low. I do rate him quite highly. But I struggle to justify them pushing on into that team of becoming a top six, a bona fide top six challenger. So there's just a lot there that Rhino needs to achieve. Their business so far is interesting. I like Will Keane, but he's at the wrong end of his career age-wise. I like Calvin Ramsey, but he's a young player who's just starting out a bit like Alvaro Fernandez last season. So there's going to be some teething issues naturally. Mads Jensen is an interesting pickup. He could be the quality they need in the final third. Leighton Stewart is another one who, again, he's a young player. So there's a real mix of talent there, coupled with a lack of creativity at times in the league last season, despite wanting to play an attacking style of football. I just don't think things are going to go as well as they want it to. And that being said, this is a really important point. They lack the resource and depth to kick on after what was a fairly successful last season. So I think there's going to be a drop off this season. Might not be a bad thing, but I think that throws them into the category of underachieving. It might be a case of just taking 2 steps backwards to take 3 steps forward the following season, where they improve the squad massively this season, allow those young players to develop, and then kick on the following season, which is not what Preston fans want to hear. But for me, just can't see them being anywhere near the top half this season.
I'm not sure I agree with that one, Justin. We'll save that for the league table predictions next week. My biggest underachiever, and again, this is very subjective. I've gone with what the bookies are doing it. And so I was amazed to look at the bookies odds and see only 4 teams ahead of Norwich City in the odds for winning the title. I just cannot buy that at all. Norwich are a club who don't really seem to know who they are right now. It feels like this is very much a transition season. They've got the sporting director who's leaving, but seeing out his notice period and still overseeing recruitment. And the players they brought in seems a bit all over the place. Ashley Barnes, Shane Duffy, Jack Stacey. Not players you'd usually see Norwich bring in over the past 5 years. And then you've got the signings of Boy Sainz and Christian Fastnacht, which is what Norwich would have done over the past 5 years. The squad itself is very patchy. Gabriel Sava's a magnificent player in midfield. I also rate Marcelino Nunes. But then I'm looking at that front line, not sure where the goals are going to come from. I think there's a lot of pressure on Josh Sargent in particular to score the goals. And he was very quiet from kind of 3/4 in the final 3/4 of the season. And then the defense has already been hit with injury, but even then it's not the best. The cherry on top of this big yellow and green cake is the manager. And I'm not sure how David Wagner's still in charge after the collapse at the end of last season. 1 win from 8. He finished the season with a points per game record, which was only marginally better than Dean Smith earlier in the season. His record at Young Boys and Schalke previously weren't great either. So I find it very difficult to find anything to be excited about with Norwich. The club needed to press the reset button this summer, and feels like they're doing it, but it feels like the finger is still very much on the button at the moment, and they're just pressing it very slowly. They're very reluctant to let go of that button.
I think they're such an interesting case, aren't they, Norwich? I think they're almost victims of their own previous success because they've done things one way for so long. They've had to rapidly change that approach, and we don't know how it's going to pan out. The squad's been built a certain way for previous years. Now they're doing it a new way because they need to press the reset button. They need to rebuild the squad and the club from the ground up, not the ground up, but you know what I mean. So there's a lot of uncertainty there. And given that David Wagner flattered to deceive last season and has flattered to deceive since that first season in the Premier League with Huddersfield, there's not a lot of convincing factors in Norwich's favour. I think the only thing I can say positively about them at the moment is the signings of Ashley Barnes, Shane Duffy, Jack Stacey adds some experience into that squad that needed it and a little bit more depth as well. But not particularly inspiring signings that have been successful in the past. That being said, it might cook the right yellow and green cake that serves to satisfy quite a few people, or it might be gross. It might be gross.
I think you mean bake the right yellow
Cook,
green
bake.
cake. If
Well,
you're
I
cooking a
know.
cake, then it's. I don't think it's going to go too well. Only thing I'd follow on from what you were saying there, Justin. Ashley Barnes, Shane Duffy, a lot of experience, certainly past their best. And that's why I struggled to get too excited about those signings in particular. Let's move on to best performing relegated side. Justin, quite a high standard of teams coming down from the Premier League this season, isn't there? Who have you gone for?
I've gone with Leicester. I like how the squad is evolving. I think it's still short, and with Harvey Barnes being sold as well, it does diminish the quality in the final third. But it's an extra £40 million in the bank. There's room to recruit and recruit some good players. So as long as you get the players coming in right and you identify the right ones as they have done in the past, then there's no issue to be worried there. I think the only concerns I have is the uncertainty of Maresca. I reflected this in my managerial list. But at the same time, I recognise that he wants to deploy a style of play that is going to be impressive, that is going to be, or at least try to be impressive, that is going to win the plaudits. And I think the Leicester team is fixed to receive that. And I think the reason why I think Leicester are going to be the best performing relegated team is I think they're in a better state than maybe Southampton are, who I think are going to go through the motions in the early periods of Russell Martin's tenure. And they've got some things to sort out in terms of players potentially departing, Ward-Prowse, Walker-Peters, Shea Adams. And then you've got Leeds there who are weeks behind in terms of recruitment. They've got to play catch up. So I think Daniel Farke is going to find it difficult, although I do rate Daniel Farke the highest out of those two managers. I think he's going to have a couple of teething issues. So for me, I think Leicester are better set to make a promotion push at the first time of asking them maybe Southampton and Leeds are at this current moment.
Yeah, in my opinion, and I suspect the opinion of many people, Leicester are the best side ever to get relegated from the Premier League in terms of quality. Despite the departures of some big names, this squad is still very strong, and Leicester have much more squad depth than the other relegated sides, which is why I simply think they won't be as badly affected. You've got players there like the likes of Kieran and Dewsbury Hall, Wout Faes, Ricardo Pereira, Timothy Castagna, amongst many others who simply shouldn't be playing Championship football. They're Premier League players. Meanwhile, the other two relegated sides, their squads had gotten to the point where many of them were ready to drop down a level. And Leeds in particular are looking, I mean, half their squad's gone out on loan, hasn't it? So they've had a bit of an exodus there. And the manager's also a huge positive me. I look at Leeds and I think they've gone for an appointment which isn't very ambitious in my eyes. Southampton have had ambition, but it may take time for them to get fully ticking. And then, yeah, I just think that it will take a bit of time for Russell Martin to fully get to grips with how he wants this squad to play. And we may not see the best of them until probably about halfway through the season at the very earliest. And then for Leicester and Enzo Maresca, they've got a world-class coach who could very well be an excellent manager. They're definitely in the best position out of the three for me in terms of not just the managers, but also the squad as a whole as well. Let's move on to best performing promoted side, Justin. I think we've both gone for the same one here, haven't we?
It was a pretty easy one. It's not a disrespect to the other two teams, but for me, Ipswich Town are the best, most adaptable looking team than the likes of Plymouth from Sheffield Wednesday. They've got
let me just stop you there, because I don't think that'll be a surprise to anyone that we've picked Ipswich. I'm not sure when the last time was that expectations were this high for a newly promoted side. Exceptional manager, squad that was way too strong for League One, and an ownership that are very ambitious. The boxes are all ticked there, haven't they? We won't go into too much detail because we can discuss them more at length in our league table predictions, but expectations are high for Town. You look at the other two, Wednesday have had a fairly disastrous summer. Plymouth have had a great summer, but I just think Ipswich are a different beast. Anything you want to add without giving too much away?
They've got lots of Championship experience, and that's going to help. Walton, Morsey, Luongo, Evans, and then a lot of potential with Kieran McKenna as well. That's going to be a big thing. I think that it was between them and Plymouth, wasn't it? But they've got more Championship experience than Plymouth do. McKenna's a more adaptable coach, playing wise than Schumacher is. So they're the other two factors. And of course, they've got bigger budget than both Wednesday and Plymouth. So it was a pretty easy one.
Yeah, definitely. Let's finish off with a bold prediction, Justin. I did ask you to make one, but I haven't given too much thought into mine. I've got to say, what have you gone for?
I've tried to make a really bold one. So I've gone with Varian Ismail last season at Watford.
That is
Call
bold.
me crazy. Call me crazy. I think Watford need to commit to a manager. Recruitment has been slow for good reason. Obviously, second term parachute payments. They came down, I think, in the COVID season or just after the COVID season, so they lost a lot of money. So naturally, there's also a lot of deadwood that needed moving on. So they're managing to move on that deadwood, and I think recruitment is going to take time to really get the right quality of player in. And I think Ishmael should be allowed the opportunity to really develop the squad alongside Ben Manga, the sporting director or head of recruitment or whatever, to essentially put the squad capable together, capable of achieving in the long term. That is, of course, if things aren't a absolute disaster. That goes without saying. But for me, my bold prediction is Ishmael last season at Watford. Good luck, Pozzos. Stick with him. Big smiles. Come on.
Have you kept track of Watford over the last 10 years now?
Yes, it's very easy, but there's a point where you become such a laughing stock that there is some self-reflection that maybe
Do you think
might
they
happen.
care about that, Justin?
They probably don't, but at the same time, I don't think fans can take it anymore. And these are all weird variables, don't really matter. I just think it's based on if you want a successful squad in the long term, commit to a bloody manager, put a recruitment team in place as they have done, and allow that team to recruit for that manager and have succession plans in place that aren't sort of willy-nilly get this manager. It's just a weird approach that I don't think it's caught up with them. So Ishmael, last season, I don't think it will happen. Now, I'm convincing myself it won't happen now.
I was going to say, look, I completely agree with you. It makes sense for Watford to just get a manager and stick with him. Maybe, I don't know, someone like Rob Edwards would have been a good idea to stick with a manager and make him a long-term option. But don't know. I don't know what happened to him. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the Ishmael appointments, but I'd much prefer them sticking with Ishmael as opposed to getting him in for a few months and then sacking him. But I just don't think it will happen because Watford just don't learn. And my bold prediction is I think the following managers will all get sacked or leave their jobs this season: Jon Dahl Tomasson, Nigel Pearson, Errol Bullitt, Daniel Farker, David Wagner, Gareth Ainsworth, Isker Munoz, Alex Neil, Tony Mowbray, and Valiant Ishmael. I've mainly done this purely for my own self-interest to see how many I get right come the end of the season. I'll be providing no further explanation.
That's incredible. We've listed half the championship.
Yep. Well, you think about it, right? At the start of the season, you may be looking at it and thinking, oh, that manager seems a good fit. But then, halfway through the season, and, so many of them have gone already. I don't think we'll see ridiculous numbers of sackings like we did last season, because I think it was 22 I counted of managers either being sacked or leaving. I don't think we'll see that again, but there's undoubtedly going to be a lot of sackings because that's just how a championship season works.
No, you're right. Was Neil Warnock in your list?
No, he wasn't.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not counting the end of the season.
During
the season.
Just thinking now about it, obviously he's in charge of this transition season. He might not last the season because the owners might find somebody else to come in and take over. So that's a possibility.
Maybe. I'm not saying those managers are the only managers who are going to get sacked. I just think all of them,
those ones,
will possibly leave
the same weekend.
But yeah, let's just look back at the end of the season and see how many I get right, shall we? Let's finish off with a game of Scott High or Ryan Lowe, Justin. This is where I give Justin 3 questions and 4 options. All he has to do is rank them in order from highest to lowest. Just take a deep breath because it's been a bit of an episode, hasn't it? There's been a lot going on here, a lot of predictions made. So let's just take the pressure off us for once, Justin, and throw ourselves in here. I want you to rank these players on how long they've been at their current club from longest to shortest. Barry Bannon, Liam Cooper, Matt Grimes, Matt Phillips.
I think this is quite cheeky because I think a lot of those may have moved in the same summer. So it may well come down to a matter of days.
It's not. It's not. I can
Is it
tell
not?
you right now, different transfer windows, all of them.
Okay, interesting. So Barry Bannon, Matt Grimes, Matt Phillips, and who was the other one?
Liam Cooper.
Liam Cooper. I think it goes Liam Cooper, Barry Bannon, Matt Phillips, Matt Grimes.
You're so close. You've underestimated the length of time Matt Grimes has been at Swansea.
Yeah, no,
Goes Liam Cooper joined Leeds in the summer of 2014. Matt Grimes joined Swansea in January 2015. Barry Bannon joined Wednesday in the summer of 2015. Matt Phillips has been at West Brom since the summer of 2016. So if you just didn't underestimate Grimes there, Justin, you would have been a spot on. Next one is this. Rank these players on who scored the most hat-tricks at championship level. Dwight Gale, Alexander Mitrovic, David Nugent, and Jordan Rhodes.
I think Nugent's last because I don't think he's got that many hat tricks.
Been around for a while.
Yeah, Mitrovic. It takes some doing to score so many hat tricks in a very short space of time. So I think he's going to be second to last. Who was the first one again? Sorry.
Dwight Gale.
I think Dwight Gale's top, but he falls into the same category as Mitrovic, but he was crazy good at scoring goals. And then who was second?
Jordan Rhodes.
Jordan Rhodes. Yeah, go on then, Jordan Rhodes, to give you some credit. We've been battering you last few weeks.
Wait, so what are you going with?
I've gone with Gale, Rhodes, Mitrovic, Nugent.
Oh, you're so close. You're so close. Dwight Gale's top with 5. Very good shout from you. Alexander Mitrovic was second with 4. Jordan Rhodes third with 3. And Nugent was last with 2.
Mitrovic surprised me. I just can't remember him scoring many hat tricks. He scored a lot of braces.
He did score 40 odd goals in a season, Justin. You'd have thought there'd be a few hat tricks in there.
Maybe. That was a good one.
Well, thank you. And the final one is this, and it's all about Norway for no reason whatsoever. Here's 4 Norwegians. Can you rank them on who's played the most championship games? Stefan Johansson, Josh King, Jonathan Parr, good to mention, and Alexander Tete.
Oh, I love Tete so much. Won us 150 quid. What a man. On Soccer AM. We were on Soccer AM and you won us
Oh, yeah.
Well, you won us a fair bit of money. I'm going to go Johansson, then Jonathan Parr, then Tete, then Josh King.
I feel like the Soccer AM thing is completely out of context. Me and Justin were on Soccer AM many years ago, and we had to guess the nationalities of players, and we got full marks. I'll search that clip out somewhere and maybe tweet it if I remember. So you went Johansson.
Actually, no, I'm going to go Parr, Johansson, Tete, and King.
Oh, Justin, you're so close once again. You've completely overestimated how many games Jonathan Parr played at championship level. Stefan Johansson was topped by miles, 211 games. Alexander Tete, 143 games. Jonathan Parr, 117 games. Josh King, 100 games. I thought you might put King a bit higher because he had quite a few loan spells, didn't he?
But he was really crap until just suddenly switched it on in the Premier League. Yeah. He was really poor.
Very strange. He's like the opposite of Dwight Gale, where he was really bang average at championship level, but really good in the Premier League.
Yeah, really odd one. I'm surprised at Tete. I thought he'd have played more games in the Premier League. And Jonathan Parr was at Palace and Ipswich for a while. So, yeah, that's a
good player.
He was.
Really good left back. He is, as far as, Coca-Cola Championship era players go, Jonathan Parr is probably one of my favourites because he was a fantastic left back.
Proper beach blonde hair as well. Proper like Norwegian looking player. Incredible.
He just stood out, didn't he? I love Jonathan Parr. But there we go, Justin. No luck for you on Scott High or Ryan Lowe this week. Hopefully your predictions fare a lot better. So these have been our pre-season predictions. And you know what that means, ladies and gentlemen? It's time for our league table predictions. So, as always, you'll be getting them in 3 episodes so we can properly explain each team's position. On Sunday, we'll be revealing our bottom 8, 24th to 17th. On Tuesday, it's 16th to 9th. And then on Thursday, it's our top 8. Who do we think is going down? Who do we think is going up? Who do we think is finishing in the top 6 this season? You don't want to miss it, ladies and gentlemen. All will be revealed in the coming weeks. So if you haven't already, there isn't a better time to subscribe to us on your podcast apps so you can stay up to date as to when each episode comes out. And we look forward to seeing you then. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a huge thank you for listening.